Thank you, Sharone. Go ahead, Doris.
Growing luminous. On the mystic path, we create our own light, and at first we struggle, blind and baffled, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, unable to think, unable to imagine. We seem deserted by dream, vision, or inspiration, and our meditation barren altogether. But let us persist through weeks or months, and sooner or later that stupor disappears. Our faculties readjust themselves and do the work we will them to do. Never did they do their work so well. The dark caverns of the brain begin to grow luminous. We are creating our own light. George William Russell.
So much. So this is the week of Light on the Path. And that last line of we are creating our own light has a lot to do with our theme for this week in our Stella Moving Center Almanac. That theme is never a victim. We have a quote that starts off the week for us. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. That's by Maya Angelou. I asked Mary Bird if she would undertake something that is turning out to be really a sacrificial task on her part to do, which was to take in a film called Life is Beautiful, an Italian film that won an Oscar for Best Picture of the Year and Best Foreign Film of the Year when it came out in the late 90s. And to me, this idea of not being able to control the events that happen to you, but also not to be reduced by them, is pretty well portrayed in this film of this very vivacious to the point of eccentric father who is seeking to protect his son from the darkness of the world and the events that they are caught up in. So I want to introduce Mary Bird. She's been a frequent presenter for us here at Gems from the Wisdom Traditions. And well, this could be a little bit of a problem. There we go. She often presents to us on the Catholic tradition from which she hails. And at the same time, she is very much of a universal thinker. And since I first opened Stella Moving Center with her daughter, Malia Helela, she has been attending events with me that celebrate and look into all of the world's teachings and traditions in a way that always really inspires me. So thank you, Mary, for taking on something that I know is difficult to make your way through. It's not an easy movie to watch, even though it is about life being beautiful. So please, Mary.
Mahalo, Renee. I don't know who has or who hasn't seen this movie. I had not seen it. So I'm Doris is going to help me. We're just going to run the quick trailer for it, so it gives you a little bit of background. So thank you. Yeah. Skip that one. Well, it'll skip. It'll usually go down here, and it should say skip. There. Okay.
That very first one, yeah.
Miramax Home Entertainment is proud to present an extraordinary.
We are not seeing it on our end.
Nominated for 7 Academy Awards.
They're not
Let,
seen.
let me see if I can share. I have the same files.
Oh,
Is
okay,
it
okay.
the first one?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to stop the share on my end then.
Can you see my screen, everybody? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
No, not that one.
Yeah, so this
Oh,
is
yes.
the
Yeah, it is. Okay.
this
good.
is the trailer.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear it?
Miramax Home
Can you hear it?
Little
Oh.
bit.
Okay, then maybe we just. How do we share the audio, Doris?
I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God, you're the one.
We could see it in yours, but we could hear in yours but not see it. Now we can see it but not hear it. What about now?
Entertainment is proud to
Okay, can
present
hear,
an
but I don't-
extraordinary new movie.
Huh?
We could hear it, but now we can't.
Can't
Okay.
s-
Yeah, why don't you
Okay.
start at the beginning? I think it'll work.
Yes. Here we go. Give me a
Okay.
thumb up if it's working. 1, 2, 3.
Miramax Home Entertainment is proud to present an extraordinary new movie. Nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, and only the second film ever nominated for both Best Picture and Best Foreign Film. Meet a real-life Prince Charming. He has met the woman of his dreams, and he'll do everything in his power to sweep her off her feet and carry her away. Now, his fairy tale life takes a serious turn. To protect his family, this loving father has to turn the hard truth into a simple game. Wonderful. 2 thumbs up, says Siskel and Ebert. A modern comic masterpiece, raved the Chicago Tribune. Written, directed by, and starring Italy's national treasure, Roberto Benigni. In the story that proves love, family, and imagination conquer all. Life is beautiful.
Thank you, Sharone. So this is a story about a family, a man. When I first listened to it, I was getting kind of, oh my goodness, this guy is over the top. And watching the movie and listening to his ideas, you need that if you are, if you're having to cope with the kind of things that he did. And we have things like, not as dramatic that I'm aware of happening in each of our lives, but we have crises, we have problems, and how do we cope? So his method was to make a game out of it. When he and his son were taken away to go to a concentration camp, I didn't realize that the mother had also said, I need to get on that train. So she wasn't Jewish, but she needed to be there with her family, her husband and her child. And so that love just within a family is so monumental. So anyway, everybody goes off to the concentration camp. And what the father does is he tells his son that the son loves tanks, the military tanks. He had a toy tank, and he just loved that. And so the father tells him, well, we've got to win a tank. We're going to win a tank, but you got to be good. You have to score points, and we have to reach 1,000 points before we get the tank. And so the boy is so, that's his goal, to get a tank, be a good boy. He hides when he needs to so that the German soldiers don't grab him and send him away, because they the Germans at that time took the children and the elderly and exterminated them. So the father keeps the son, his name is Joshua, and he keeps him and he tells him, you have to hide. Don't make any noise. Do this, do that. And he's earning points. The father is telling him, oh, we've got 50 points because you weren't crying because you were hungry. You weren't nagging because your stomach hurt. You weren't doing this, that, and the other thing. So I really am not sure how long they were in this concentration camp. But the boy, through different things, different experiences, whatever is happening in the camp, the boy is obedient. He's listening to his father, and he's scoring points. He's scoring points. And as the movie goes on, they had separated the men from the women. So they knew that the mother was there on the train, but they could not, they were in separate compounds and stuff. And the father, he's so really ingenious how you work with what you've got. And before they were married, in the beginning part of the story, they had gone to an opera. And I don't remember what the opera was, but the music is classic. And that was their connection. They're okay, we're gonna, that's our song, you might say. And while they were in the concentration camp, because Guido, who is the father, had been a waiter, he was at a dinner that they were playing music on a Victrola, really old-fashioned, and he found a disc, a record of that opera. And he looks around, nobody's watching, they're all busy with themselves. And he turns it on, he plays it, and he angles the megaphone to the window. And it goes out over the camp. And Dora, who is the wife and mother, she hears it and she goes outside, and she knows that he's communicating with her. And it was, really just so heartfelt and wonderful. So there were a lot of these little points that Guido does to create hope for not only his son, but also his wife. And that was that was really touching. And another point that I found that was interesting is one of the German people who had been a guest at the hotel where Guido was a waiter was actually a German doctor. And Guido and this doctor, we didn't know who these people are. They would tell riddles. And I didn't catch some of the riddles and things, but it was throughout the movie there were riddles that were going back and forth. And when Guido and a number of the other inmates were being examined, who is examining them but this doctor? And one of the riddles that he told Guido was, you don't know my name. You don't know my name, but blah, blah, blah. And when, the doctor, he's seeing hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of prisoners, and he doesn't pay attention. But as he passed Guido repeated that riddle, and the doctor realized who he was. And the doctor went to the people in charge and said something to them so that Guido was given a little bit more consideration. And through that, Guido was able to take his son into a dinner where there's all German kids and the adults, and he had told his son, don't say anything. Keep your mouth closed. And when he was in the dinner, the waiter handed him apple pie, and the kid's been starving. He's been starving, and he pipes up and says, thank you. And the guard goes out and gets the lady warden or whatever. And when she comes back, Guido is going to each of the tables and going, thank you, thank you. And the kids are repeating it. And it was just, what a mind to come up with that idea. So mind ideas, mind games are fascinating. So when things are happening, people are missing from the barracks, what do you do? How are you coping? How would you cope with somebody? You only know them from the time that you go into the barracks. How do you cope? And Guido kept positive things. When he was talking to his son and telling him, oh, this is a great place, and the rest of the guys in the barracks, they were quiet, and they might have looked at him like he was crazy, but then they understood what he was trying to do for his son, to keep his son's mind focused on positive things. So as the days, weeks, I don't know again how long it was, they are getting to the point where Germany is losing the war and the Americans are coming in, and at that point they start to, when you get rid of all the evidence and stuff, and Guido tells his son, he says, we got to find a hiding place. And because for some reason Guido has access to the barracks, he has access outside, they kind of watch, but he also is able to see things. And at one point, he tells his son to hide because that's where he's going to stay. And he tells him, you only have to stay for this time, and we're just 40 points away from 1,000 points. And when we hit 1,000 points, you're going to get that tank. It's going to come. And so he hides him in, it's like a foot locker, but it's a vertical one. And he says, don't come out, just, make sure that you're quiet and everything. And the father has moved away because the Nazis are all running around trying to clean up and burn things, and a dog is barking at where the boy is, and the father goes, go away, go away, go away. And eventually the dog, he's not found, he's not discovered. So there are lots and lots of positive things. And in the end, Guido is killed, but the boy has a reward. So I'm gonna, that's the last thing I'm gonna ask Doris to find.
Sorry, Sharoni, could you do the one that says
boy saved, little boy saved.
For the end of that list, please?
Yes, give me 1 minute. Yes.
Just gonna check to see that.
The last one?
Little boy saved.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
inside, boy. You all alone? What's your name? You don't understand what I'm saying, do you? We'll give you a lift. Come on. Come on, get up here. Follow me down. Come on.
So that's how it ends, where the little boy gets into this tank, and that's the prize. He won the prize. And he puts, he's got the helmet on, and he's in the lap of this American soldier, and they're going along, and the boy sees his mother and he goes, "Mama, Mama." And they're reunited. That was just so amazing. It's a wonderful ending to just a heartfelt story of perseverance, of tenacity, of ingenuity. And thank you. So I have a question. Do you want to share any time when you've been challenged and you've come up with a solution? So that'll be our discussion points. Thank you all.
Well, I'm not going to respond to that question, but I do want to say before the debate's open, thank you so much, Mary. I know we do this at the end. I'm going to take the liberty to do it earlier. That was magnificent. That was great. Thank you for sharing. There's a lot of things I didn't catch on the movie when I saw it many years ago, and you made me think of it and make realizations. So thank you so much. That was great. Thank you.
Indeed. And while you're all thinking, I'll just mention one little last in-between scene. When the Nazi soldiers come to march his father away, it's in full sight of this little boy because he has this little peephole that he can look through from his hiding spot. And so Guido, knowing full well what his probable end will be and how soon it's going to come, just keeps this glad smile on, and he gives this big wink to his son, like, "Here we go, I'm playing the game, I'm going to give you some more points so you can win your tank." And he goes marching off like he's kind of a toy soldier along with the soldier, and with the Nazi soldier. And so the little boy doesn't have to see what happens to his father. And just the last image of his father is of him just happily playing the game. And then he does get rescued and gets his tank. Kathy.
Unmute.
Oh,
Let's see. I think you muted and then unmuted or something. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Thank you, Mary, for that storyline. I had seen it when it first came out and loved it. And the scene that I loved best was just playing that record of the opera during the concentration camp, and in the middle of the night, directing it to the courtyard so his wife could hear it. And I took it as a way of his communicating with her and saying he's still alive, and to have hope. And she is drawn to the music. So anyway, that was my favorite scene.
Thank you.
I'm gonna talk. So this is my mom's favorite movie, and when I was like around, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old, she made me watch it. Like very, very small. I'll say maybe smaller than that. She's like, "This is my favorite movie. You have to watch it." And I remember just crying and understanding a lot of it. And I think you know, I grew up in really very difficult circumstances, but watching that movie as a kid really helped me to not feel victimized by those circumstances. Just really not let what happened to me define who I am. And I feel like the thing that it stand out the most for me in the movie is like the strength of the human spirit, right? How we can choose how to approach things. Like things are gonna happen to us, but we don't need to be defined by that. How, from what perspective are we gonna look at the situation, at the problem, at the issue? So I think I have a lot of energy in life, in everyday life, and you know, I deal with problems pretty well because I'm always trying to approach it in high spirits. What is the best we can make out of this situation? And of course, there's sometimes cried and angry, but after that is, you know, how do you move on? It's okay to have all your feelings, but how do you move on? How you continue? And I just love that idea of like human spirits and the strength of it and dignity, right? And you're still a human being no matter what you're going through. And yeah, that was beautiful. I love that movie.
Thank you, Sharoni. You reminded me of a saying that I grew up with. I'm one of three daughters. My dad had, you know, he was surrounded by women, four women in his family. And, you know, when somebody didn't like something or they got pushed down or the kids were fighting or whatever, and okay, you go have your cry. And then my mother said, all right, now put on your big girl panties and get up and go. So that's what brought to mind your example and stuff. So thank you, thank you.
I too saw this movie when it first came out. I was living in New York. My husband and I were living in New York, and you know, that was before I became a parent myself. You know, so watching this clip, I remember seeing it, but I don't, you know, I don't remember the storyline that well. But now seeing it as a parent and just, oh my God, I've always been fascinated by the stories of the Holocaust. I mean, there's a just I read so much about it growing up, and I I think seeing the clip now, I think it was the first time I revisited this film in some form since becoming a parent. And what really stuck out to me was uh, Guido's, you know, just unwavering optimism in a time of such horrific circumstances that, oh my God, for the love of his child to put on this act and try to make like everything's fine, just so extraordinary. And I think that's what jumped out at me this time around. I don't think I necessarily felt that back in 1998 or whenever it came out. And yeah, I'm just astounded watching it now, putting myself in his place. Could I have done something similar just to save my child from this horror that was just unfolding and all around? So thank you, Mary, for bringing this back.
Next.
I think Anne's next.
I'll get it over with. Okay, I'm not good at impromptu speeches, but this year I will mark my 50th year of moving to Japan. So I was reflecting on it myself, you know, because August I moved to Japan. And this, I've been through many, many challenges myself, but just on my personal self, not as big as, you know, experiencing war. But how did I overcome the challenges. I think basically for me it was to try to keep a positive attitude, and whatever, or usually it was with people, and why I couldn't get along, or I was misunderstood, or there was miscommunication. So I just tried to keep an open mind. And if this is just me, if there's something I feel someone who doesn't, click with me, I just try to distance myself from that and tell myself, we're all different, and it's just a feeling that we don't click. So I just try to let it go and just keep going. So that's my way, I think, of how I was able to live here for 50 years. Thank you.
Bless you. And I think we also have helpers like Mr. Rogers. Look for the helpers. We always have somebody that we can fall back on. And Renee and everybody, and Sharon. And so, we do have that. And it is, we have friends who get knocked down and they have a really hard time getting back up. So what we are able to show others will help them. It helps us too, but it also helps them. Thank you.
Diana.
I think one of the things, thank you, Mary. I just love your talks. They really touch my heart. So thank you so much. I think for me, one of the things that I work with in a challenge is to accept it. Because in Buddhism, they say what causes suffering is you want it to be different. And when you want it to be different and you're not accepting it, you feel suffering. And the way out is the Eightfold Path of right livelihood, right speech, right thought. And the center of that is meditation or prayer, from meditation or prayer. And I think that if I can see it and acknowledge that my human self is devastated and I don't know what to do, and it's like in the beginning, it's really hard. I need to let myself feel it. I need to let myself acknowledge that that's how I feel and that this is what's going on. And then a lot of what I do is I surrender. And I know I've said this each time, I think, but that's my way, is that I ask for guidance. We do have people and friends and God and angels around, I believe, and we can turn to help. But most of the time, if I just let myself feel the feelings, I realize they don't linger as much, and then I can look from a soul perspective and have faith and hope. Or even if it's not going to change, and I know that it's, it feels devastating, if I can just acknowledge that, to me, I'm going to cry. That's interesting. It's touching me deeply. If I can just acknowledge that that's true, I can move forward and not lose the joy in my life.
Thank you. Yeah, there is definitely a power in surrendering. I received a novena of surrender, or the surrender novena, and basically it tells you can't control everything, but you can surrender to your higher power. I believe in God. I surrender it to God because He's going to take care of it. Basically, I surrender, but I also hand it over, and I don't keep buying it back or taking it back. So surrender, I think, is just that's the top level. When you can't do anything else, surrender. Somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, I think the film does a pretty good job, like not hiding suffering. I don't think it's trying to hide suffering, but it's trying to honor it and to, show that with love everything can be overcome. He could have been angry and upset and fight the soldiers, but he chose love, and that was very, what's the word, defiance, way of doing that. He chose humor. He chose to protect his son with imagination. How powerful that is how he reframe everything. So I think it's amazing, like, that we also have the power to do that in our life, to reframe things, to look at it from a different perspective, and to choose love when we're upset, when problems happen. It's truly a movie of hope and faith and love. It's a love story.
Um, It, it is interesting, isn't it, how your mom chose to show you this film when you were relatively young, say 9 or 10 years old, and he was sheltering his much younger son. But in his case, he was sheltering his son in the face of his actual life experience. He was allowing you to see something of an imaginary experience. We don't know that this story ever truly happened. It'd be nice to imagine that it did. And so there's that difference, but also there's just this thing of knowing what your child is ready for, and so that they will not become a victim, which is something that I think the point is being made, that being a victim is dependent on how we hold things in our own minds. Right? And so he was protecting his little son from becoming a victim within a very real context, in which in terms of what actually happens in life, his father became a true victim. But in terms of his psychological state of mind, he never became a victim. And he protected his son from becoming one psychologically. And it's so interesting to me that you're seeing this film as a little bit older child. Somehow that was able to protect you psychologically.
I think the fact that he was in prison, but yet his mind was not. He got inner freedom, right? I think that's what I just remembering. Like, he's under this really terrible circumstances. He's about to die. Everybody in his family is about to die. Yet he chooses to not see it that way. He is free. He's in this concentration camp, but inside himself, he's a free man. He got the choice to laugh, to make others laugh, to bring purpose to his life. So that just still with me my whole life watching that movie.
Yeah. You know, I was just reading today that and Bob can probably tell us where it is, if it's relevant, but one of the things that the Greek philosopher Plato says is that we aren't really practicing true philosophy. We are not able to live philosophically as long as we are controlled by a fear of death. And so part of what he does that is so brave and so inspiring is to allow his love for his son to overcome his fear of his own death. That love was much higher than his fear of his own personal death. And so how ennobling that is to watch somebody overcome something that, you know, a lot of us suffer from most of the, you know, a lot of the time. There are very few people who truly don't feel controlled by that fear of death in some way at some point in their lives. So that, I think, might have been one of the keys to the freedom that you are talking about. We're ready for you, Bob. Are you ready for us?
Well, sort of. um, I do have an experience now. I'll talk about that later. But basically, as you mentioned, Plato, the Greeks had a sense of philosophy, a love of wisdom. And especially the Stoics really felt that um, philosophy was a way of life. And basically, they said, what you have control over, you can do something about. And that which you have no control over, you have to accept. And part of philosophy is to sort of recognize where you fit within this. And it sounds very much like basically Guido is taking control over a lot of things he had no control over. And it basically was how he felt about it, how he could communicate about it, but he couldn't really do anything about being in the concentration camp. And nobody can do anything about the fact that they're going to die. So accepting that to say, well, we should really not only accept it, but be gracious and happy about that because that's the way of nature. We're following nature's path. And, I think it was Epictetus or maybe Marcus Aurelius, who said, can you imagine a place where there are no cruel people, no despicable people? And his answer was no. I mean, there are despicable people out there. You're going to deal with them. And of course, in the concentration camps, you're really going to deal with them. But you're going to come across that. How do you choose then to play the game? There's a beautiful Zen poem as part of a koan that says, moon of the mind, flower of the eye, how bright and beautiful, opening since the beginning before the kalpas, who will play with it? And not just who will realize it, the truth, but to play with it. And he seemed like he was playing with it. Anyway, that kind of came to me. The experience I had when I was in kindergarten, I got rheumatic fever, and I sort of missed the whole year. It wasn't clear I had it, but I had something, and it kept me out of kindergarten. But I knew enough skills that they put me into first grade without flunking me out of kindergarten. And then in third grade, I truly did have it, and I missed like 60% of the year. And the teacher came and studied with me at home and thing. And what happened to me was that I discovered reading, and that's sort of the way in which I dealt with all of my life after that. And I would read fantasy, Tarzan of the Apes. I was a little kid left in the jungle, no friends, no family, but he learns to live with nature. He learns to live with the animals, and basically flourishes. And that's kind of what the Greeks were doing: is how do you live a life that's flourishing? Eudaimonia, the good life. Well, you do it by surviving and such. And I guess the reading over the years has given me some wonderful friends. It's given me some ways to approach the world and thinking. And I've sort of seen that Stoicism is kind of very related to Confucianism. It's very related to Buddhism, how things kind of fit together. And I don't know, it's an interesting, for me at least, interesting that I've kind of been inside my head the whole time, but actually been pretty happy. So that's all I got. I decided to learn how to read and learn how to really throw myself into those ways of thinking that reading gives you and then think it through. And so um, it's interesting that to some extent, the mind, body, spirit, nature, all of that is one unity. And you can come to that unity in whatever way you have. For me, it was the life of the mind, reading philosophy that guided it. But there's a lot of feeling in that. If you really read, you do really feel, and you really have a sense. There was a quote that Mary gave us to think about between the necessary and the unnecessary. And I thought of that. And one way of looking at Buddhism is that Bodhidharma brought Buddhism from India to China, but it was totally unnecessary. Buddha nature has been there for everyone from the beginning, before the beginning of time. So it was totally unnecessary. But if he had never brought it, Zen would never have developed out of Chinese philosophy. So it was absolutely necessary and completely unnecessary, and how you work that through, just as kingdom of God is within you. You don't have to seek it, you don't have to go anywhere. But then if you don't realize it, well, then you've got some necessary work to do. Even though it's unnecessary to do anything more, be anything more than you already are. So that's everything I got.
Thank you, Bob. And I will acknowledge that Sharoni is the one that provided that saying, because I couldn't come up with anything. I was kind of traumatized after watching that movie. And so thank you, Sharoni.
You're welcome. I thought it was a very deep quote to reflect on.
Yeah, because everybody, when they read it, it's, they're going to come up with a different idea. And then there was one of the quotes in the almanac. I'm just going to, just the little one was, fear is paper tigers. And I thought, that's great too, because, how many times when we realize what we're afraid of, it's nothing. It's nothing. And we give fear too much credit. However, there are times when that gut feeling is there for a reason, and listen to it. Thank you.
When I was thinking about what tradition to put down as what we were, what we were coming from, and having Mary present this Italian movie. And I think I decided to call it the heroic storytelling tradition. And Bob, when you were talking about living quite a bit of the life of the mind as a reader, I bet not just, it wasn't just something of your youth. It sounds as if it's, crept into your current age. Those hero stories like of Tarzan, just do something for the mind, the heart, the imagination, the soul of a child. It presents such a world of possibilities, and such a picture of what a human being can do. And then as it sparks that child imagination, I think, and as they live it in their mind, and it somehow becomes part of their being, it's something like, oh, I can be that too. I mean, there's something of it that kind of fills us with that spirit of hope and dignity and determination. And I think it can be there for us, kind of on reserve, for when we need to tap into it at different points in our lives. Having had that as part of our soul's background somehow is there to come forward when we need it. You hear about those women who lift cars up off of their child. I bet most of them have read superhero comics, or something else that as a child gave them that idea that we can do things in the face of great adversity. There's something that we can do. And so I'm always on the lookout for stories like that. And I think that not just children, but adults benefit from them too. And, I think it's good to share them. I think it's good for us to kind of create this milieu where we can imagine somebody having the just completely unexpected approach to being thrown into a concentration camp with your tiny little son. Like, wow, if he could do that in those circumstances, and now I'm finding myself in some kind of circumstances, probably not nearly as drastic. What could I do? He was just a waiter, a comic waiter. He was not a superhero by the looks of things, and yet he was.
Well, it's interesting, in terms of control, if you have control, to be hopeless is to really have nothing, and if you can avoid that, then you can be creative, you can be imaginative, you can find ways of thinking about it that really put you back into control. One of the things the Stoics said is that no one can really defeat your mind. They can defeat your body. You can be hungry, you can be starved, you can be tortured, but how you respond to it is something that you ultimately control. And imagination can be a wonderful way of dealing with this. There's a story of a young boy who was kind of a rascal. He was a Zen guy, and he was causing all trouble to the Zen masters and everything. And so they tried to give him a little contest. And they said, "Can you catch that tiger?" And it was a tiger that was painted onto the wall. And they had no idea, how is he going to deal with that? And so the little kid, he gets close up to the tiger, prepares himself, and puts himself in front of it. And he says, "Okay, Roshi, chase him out, and I'll get him." He didn't have to go in there. Yeah, I'm ready.
You mean chase him out of the wall? I'm ready to catch him as soon as you get him out of that wall.
Very clever.
Yeah. I can't remember who says this quote, but it's about imagination in some ways being more powerful and more real than facts.
Einstein. I actually had it in my wall for many years. I have like a huge sign on my wall that says, imagination is more important than knowledge. Albert Einstein said it. Yeah. And I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was thinking there's wonderful things we can distract ourselves with, we can distract our children with, we can distract others with, and it's rerouting all that fear or energy or confusion. So yeah, there's a lot that we can do, and we'd be surprised how much we really do help others. So you guys are so awesome. I just love you all.
Well, it is interesting that Einstein said that. I actually had a different quote in mind, but you're right about Einstein saying that one, Renée. And Einstein made most of his greatest discoveries, as I understand it, through like imagination problems, like imagining himself on a beam of light traveling through space. And I think that's what it gave him, E equals MC squared, or the theory of relativity. I mean, I don't really know the difference, but anyway, I'm not a huge scientist, but something about, his active imagination took him to solutions to problems that other people, just scribbling around on their blackboards or on their paper with numbers weren't getting to. And there was a brilliant Indian mathematician, Ramanujan, I believe is his name. And he would solve his greatest problems through dreams. It would come to him in visions in his dreams. So maybe there is something about that in terms of this idea of overcoming victimhood. Since being a victim is more a matter of where our mind is than what's going on with our body.
There's a story that Einstein almost flunked out of elementary school because he did all the math problems in his head. And so he wouldn't show his work. He would just give the answer. And he was going, he just looked at the back of the book for the answer or something. You know, you're cheating. And his first job was in a patent office. And as Renee said, he was in a patent office. He didn't have paper, blackboards or anything, but he did all these mathematical problems in his head. And so, you know, his mind was such that he could solve these problems really mentally and skip steps and all kinds of things that weren't worked out, you know, exactly as most people would think that you have to approach mathematics.
Beautiful. I'm looking at the time. I'm going to ask each of you to give, if you would, a takeaway for our today. So you might want to think about that. I think Renée did a beautiful job in thanking you to begin with, Mary. It was exquisite. And I so appreciate you taking on something under request and just doing such a beautiful job with it. Yeah, very appreciative. So let me tell you about next week when we're going to take up the topic of world unity. We have a gentleman named Prakash Tyagi. He is the leader of an NGO, a nonprofit organization in India on the Thar Desert. It's a nonprofit that our daughter Sandhya actually volunteered at. It's a Gandhian nonprofit. And so she got a chance to meet the family. And they oversee and uplift the lives of some 3 million people. And it just through their just good works. So, I mean, what a wonderful person to speak with us on world unity. And then the following week, we have the topic of the ears to hear. And we're going to have a therapist, a psychology counselor, David Sanders, one of our many time visitors to GEMS and oftentimes speakers, is going to talk then. So those are the next 2 weeks, and I would like to get a just brief little takeaway from each of you. Maybe I'll go, if I may, Diana, Bob, Anne, Kathy, Sharone, Doris, and then maybe Mary, you'll give us your takeaway.
For me, it's about really looking at how we're framing what's happening in our life. And where do we come from, faith and hope, or we come from the victim? And we have a choice of that. And because our imagination is so, because the words that we use in our imagination is so strong, what we believe is what we're going to create, in my opinion. So it's like when we keep with reframing it in a way that's healthy, then we can work with it and be guided to what the next step is. It was great talk, Mary. Thank you.
You, Bob.
Okay. Well, my takeaway is that no matter what you're going through, life itself is beautiful.
Lovely. Thank you.
Today, thank you, Mary. And this movie reminded me of my father, who was, a soldier with the Japanese Americans who fought in Italy. And I visited the Anzio and another mountain where the community there thanked us for for the Japanese American soldiers rescuing them from the German troops. And a 90-year-old man who thanked us. As a child, he got candies, and the Japanese American battalion had a Christmas party for them in the old church. So I was able to see that, and it reminded me a little, not as emotional, but it reminded me of that again today. So thank you very much.
You might have to tell us that story sometime, Anne. So Renée?
Oh, Doris, I love your rawness. Thank you, Kathy. My takeaway is that being a victim may be out of our control, but living as one is not. So even in the darkest circumstances, we get to choose how we act and how we give meaning to it and how we approach it.
Thank you.
Your turn.
Oh, it's
Take away.
Oh, okay. So I shared with some of the staff last week. I had a encounter with what they call a Karen, someone who just yelled at me at the post office, and so, oh boy, it was just a horrible way to start a day. But then I came here, and just laughter and talking to someone about it, and just getting different points of view is just so helpful. So I'm just eternally grateful to this whole community, for helping me whenever things are, can get you down, that there is someone that has such a positive attitude, And I grew up with a dad who is just always complaining and so it's so easy to fall into that. But just being around the people here is just so wonderful and so helpful. I am very, very grateful because, Kumu Malia is one of those that, well, just I spend the most time with her. And, always her grace and compassion and just the way she handles things. I'm just always learning, always trying to absorb that. So I'm really grateful to her. But just everybody here, everyone here is just wanting to be so generous with their time and with their compassion and just making me laugh and making me just appreciate my life. So thank you all. Thank you, Mary. I'm not sure if I'm the last person to speak.
So Mary's the last.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well, a couple things, Kathy. If you can't stand, you can sit, because there are times in hula when I just have had it. I can't stand, so I just sit down and I do the hand motions, and that's great. And the other thing is, shout out to Renee for refining me in fire. I am getting more and more from silver to gold, and I really appreciate it. And community is everything.
We all go through that. Renee sees in you, when you get called, Renee sees in you something you don't see in yourself. And, as much as at times I'm like, ultimately, I do realize she's absolutely right. So that's...
We're never a victim for Renee. She always have hope and faith. And frames everything with love.
Renee, what is your takeaway?
Oh, I really hadn't quite identified the power of the imagination in counteracting victimhood. And I was a few years back really questioning whether somebody lost in victimhood could ever get out of it, because I hadn't seen somebody do it. And then somebody who came to our satsangs on Sunday, just during the pandemic, so it was online. I just watched her transform. And I think there was something about what we were holding up as, the way that life could be. that she just gravitated to it and just made this flying leap to grasp it. And what she's doing with her life now, how self-directed she is, it's just astounding to me. And anyway, I just haven't quite put my mind around that idea of how important imagination is to overcoming victimhood.